The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker is a classic title in the Zelda series with its ocean overworld, enemy variety, and characters. One thing that has always stuck out to me about The Wind Waker is its dungeons. The dungeons of The Wind Waker are some of the most creative dungeons in the series, from a dungeon involving hiking up a volcano to diving deep into the depths of the Earth Temple to slay the monsters inside of it. While the Earth Temple and the Wind Temple are two very important temples in The Wind Waker, the lore residing with them is also very interesting, and yet some of it actually contradicts the layout of these temples. My name is Hylian Luke, and today I am joined by Hyrule Gamer, and we are going to tell you why the Sage Temples in The Wind Waker do not match the lore within the game. Let's get started!
The Earth and Wind Temples play a very important role in the Wind Waker's story. While the purpose of the temples is unknown, the temples are used as sacred places for sages to pray for the power to vanquish evil within the Master Sword. In the Earth Temple, the old sage of the Zoras, Laruto, played her harp as a form of prayer. In the Wind Temple, the old sage of the Kokiri, Fado, played his violin as a form of prayer. The sages, however, have descendants, as Medley of the Rito is the sage descendant of Laruto, and Makar of the Korok is the descendant of Fado. In The Wind Waker, Link learns the Earth God's lyric and the Wind God's aria to conduct towards Medley and Makar in order to awaken the sage's power within them. Before we dive into the temple discussion though, we have to backtrack to before Link sets out to find the sages, back to the confrontation in Hyrule Castle's cellar. The King of Red Lions reveals he's actually the ghost of the late King of Hyrule, King Daphnis no Hansen Hyrule. He tells Link and Tetra the outcome of Ganon's return after the Hero of Time had saved Hyrule from Ganon, which is mentioned in the prologue. The tale of how the goddesses flooded Hyrule to stop Ganon from ruling it. The tale of how Link and Tetra's descendants took refuge on mountaintops by order of the goddesses. Once Link returns to the King of Red Lions, before returning to the surface world of the Great Sea, the King of Red Lions speaks these words. Link, listen well. The fact that the Master Sword lost the power to repel evil suggests to me that something has happened to the sages who infused the blade with the god's power. The sages should be in Hyrule, in the Wind Temple to the north and the Earth Temple to the south, praying to the gods. You must head for these two temples to see what has happened to the sages and attempt to find a way to recover the power to repel evil. Unfortunately, Ganon seems to have erected some sort of magical barrier down here in Hyrule, blocking our path to the temples. But each temple should have another entrance high upon Hyrule's mountaintops, which are now islands above the sea. As always, I shall mark these places on your sea chart.
It's very interesting what the King of Red Lions has to say here. Specifically, the way he mentions how Link needs to head to the temples but cannot because of Ganon's barrier. It seems to imply that originally the king wanted Link to traverse across the land of Hyrule on foot to find these temples for the sages. Next, it also implies that Link was originally supposed to enter these temples from Hyrule and not from the Great Sea. However, the king figured out a backup plan by going back up to the Great Sea and entering the temples from there thanks to, quote, another entrance, end quote, with emphasis on another. Because of this, it also means that since these temples were built before the flooding of Hyrule, they were built with the mindset of the ground entrance being the main entrance, and the entrance on the mountaintop was an exit from the temple. Why is there a second entrance to begin with? I honestly am not entirely sure, but it could purely be for the bliss of climbing to the top of the mountain from within these temples and just simply taking in that view, Breath of the Wild style. I also tried to see if Japanese culture may have anything to do with it, but I could not find anything on the subject. If you know anything, please let me know in the comments. To continue on, now that you're aware of what you need to know lore-wise about these temples, let's take a look at their actual architectural layout and figure out why their designs do not match up with the lore. Now, immediately, based on the layouts of these dungeons, you can see that Nintendo didn't try to match up the dungeon layouts with the lore they gave us in the very same game. The dungeon layouts are based off the mountaintop entrance, with absolutely no sign of the ground entrance to be seen anywhere within the dungeon. If you look on the bottom floors of both dungeons, there are no signs of a door or ground entrance anywhere. Even in the boss rooms, there is no other door or even a spot that resembles the ground entrance in this room. It's odd, but part of me feels like the boss rooms were supposed to be the rooms that contained the ground entrances, as they are at the very bottom or end of the temples from the game's perspective. If Nintendo wanted to connect the lore of the game properly, it would have been better if, from the mountaintop entrance, when you first enter the temple, you immediately come across the boss room, but have to make your way down to the bottom of the temple to find the boss key, and then make your way back up to the top where the boss lurks. This is somewhat true in the Earth Temple, but the boss room is still too low floor-wise for it to count. It also would have been a nice detail if the temple was designed from the ground entrance kept in mind, so when you enter the Earth and Wind temples, Link will practically be going backwards through a temple from end to beginning, rather than beginning to end. The architecture being backwards from the player's perspective would have also been a nice touch, because then from the lore perspective of the temple's original mindset, all the architecture would be based off of the ground entrance and not the mountaintop entrance. With the Wind Temple though, I have to cut it a little bit of slack, as the ground entrance could potentially be buried underneath all the sand in the Mulgara boss room. And with that marks the end of this video. What are your thoughts? Do you think the Sage Temples in the Wind Waker are fine the way they are, and we're just speaking gibberish? Or do you feel the temples should have matched up with the lore? Please let me know your thoughts by leaving a comment down below. Huge thank you and shout out to Hyrule Gamer for being on today's video. Hyrule Gamer is an absolutely astounding Zelda content creator right here on YouTube, so please be sure to go subscribe to his channel if you're always up for some juicy Zelda content. If you haven't yet, please be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribing and hitting that bell notification so you can be alert on upcoming content. I have social media such as Twitter, Instagram, and even a Discord server in the description below. I do live streaming on Twitch now, so if you used to watch my YouTube streams or are new to the channel and would like to start watching my streams, you can find those on Twitch from now on. A link to my Twitch is also in the description. Lastly, I do have a Patreon, and if you would like to support my work and what I do here on this channel, all you gotta do is click the link down below. That is all I have to say for now. So once again, my name is Hylian Luke, and I will see you all next time. Ciao!